Welcome inside the vault on the 15th of January. This is a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream, and I am Bobby Trossett, joined alongside my partner and co-host, Sarah Ellison. As usual, it's brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. And partner, this morning's breaking news is John Harbaugh. He has landed a new gig and on his feet, so to speak. I think that was pretty clear. Basically, every single vacancy across the league had initial interest in John, but I don't think anybody went about it as intensely, as passionately as the New York Football Giants, which is ultimately where he lands. We learned that earlier today. I don't believe it's actually been confirmed yet by the team, but they're tweeting out emojis. All the insiders got it. So we're going to react to that right off the top, given the big change that's really sweeping through the NFL. After that, there's a little interesting twist, some good nuance reporting-wise into the Ravens process for their next head coach. Peter Schrager detailed what that is and what some of these candidates on the offensive side of the ball are doing twofold throughout that process. So that'll be interesting to look at. We will give you an updated candidate list as well and get into a number of other things throughout the course of the next hour. It's great to see you. You ready to roll?
It's good to see you. I'm ready to roll, and looks like John Harbaugh is ready to roll because he is officially, well, maybe not officially, he is set to sign with the New York Giants. He will be going up to that market. The New York Giants, as you indicated, were very aggressive. Mara's going to his house just outside Owings Mills in the Baltimore area. They wanted him. He went to interview, I believe, a day or so ago with the Atlanta Falcons. He left there, went up to New York, had a dinner, had an interview with them. You can see right here a dinner that he went out with them, with some of the leadership there for the New York Giants. And you know what? It went so well that he canceled his visit to Tennessee to have his interview with the Titans. He was only going to do 3 interviews. The Giants were persuasive enough to lock him in. And let me tell you something, Bobby, based off of what I've seen online, the New York market, the New York fans, the New York media are beside themselves in the best way possible. I think they view John Harbaugh as a savior, as somebody that can get them back to the playoffs. They haven't made it to the playoffs in about 3 years. They went after the 2022 season. They only had 4 wins last year. They see John Harbaugh as a Super Bowl winner, as a guy that has a winning record well above 500. He obviously has been the head coach for 18 years. He obviously knows what he's doing. It was clearly time to end things in Baltimore, but this played out exactly how we all thought, that he'd be the hottest candidate. He was. We knew he would have to be the first domino that fell because everybody wanted him. So they were going to hold off their process until they knew what he was going to do. So that's it. He's in the NFC, and I don't think he's scheduled to even see the Ravens until something like 27 or 28. So we will not see him this season.
Nope. But we might see a Ravens North starting to form because Diana Rossini, and that's, of course, the play on words and the spinoff of Ravens West under Jim Harbaugh. We know what's happened there over the years, some of the interchanging parts. And hey, if it ain't going to work in Baltimore, it could work for you. Ben Cleveland, the latest example in Los Angeles with the Chargers. But this has been rumored since this news came down, and Diana Rossini is on top of it, that Todd Monken is expected to join John and stick with him as his offensive coordinator as he begins his next chapter with the New York Giants. And as Diana wrote, it's always been the plan. The introductory press conference set for next week. And Todd has also been of interest around the league. I had a chance to catch up with him, as I've mentioned a few times last week, and it felt like my biggest takeaway was that while he was extremely appreciative of what they accomplished there and of the organization and the 3 years that he spent in Baltimore, it had run its course and he's ready for a change. He's interviewed at the head coaching position with Cleveland. Tampa, as you have on the screen here, brought him down my way here, just up north of me, within the last couple of days to interview for, and this is a position that he's already served, by the way, earlier on in his career, for their offensive coordinator opening. But sure looks like he's going to end up alongside John Harbaugh, where he's been the last 3 years, just in a different market. And hey, to be clear on one thing that you mentioned off the top, I think Tennessee's ownership group was about to board their jet and go to John's house. And he's like, hey, I'm all set. Like, appreciate you guys. I don't forget what happened at the trade deadline a few years ago with Derrick Henry. Joking, but we all remember that. The deadline that wasn't, or the trade that wasn't, it was until it wasn't. But ultimately, it was a three-team race, I would think, right? In terms of who has the skill position players, who has the best ownership group, who has the best opportunity, but most importantly, who has the best quarterback in Sarah. And I'd have to think, given the yes, he's inexperienced, but given the potential that Jackson Dart showed this year as their first rounder and a rookie, and knowing that you got talents like Malik Neighbors and Cam Scatterbo in terms of your offensive firepower, I'd have to think that far and away, that was, outside of Baltimore, the most coveted job and vacancy when you look around the league.
Yeah, better than the Steelers. I know that a lot of people in Pittsburgh see themselves as one of the top, if not the top, destination to be. But I just don't think so, not without a quarterback. I agree. If I were John Harbaugh, I would have chosen the New York Giants also. They wanted him. They showed him. You just want to go where you're loved. And now he's going to leave Baltimore, where he was under heavy criticism, including for as much as I love John Harbaugh. Yeah, I mean, you just can't keep regressing like that, where you go from the AFC Championship to divisional round and then you miss the playoffs altogether when you have Lamar and the success that he's had. So he's going to go to a place where, like, he's going to be absolutely loved. They definitely see him as a savior. A couple of things I want to say about Todd Monken, and then also just the coordinator positions in general. With Todd Monken, John Harbaugh received. When I say I criticize John Harbaugh, I did it for the on-field stuff, like why are your star players choking, like why are you regressing, all that kind of stuff. I didn't buy into a lot of the narratives that were surrounding him. One of them is that he was accused by many in the fan base to be the leak, right, for all the harsh words that came out against Todd Monken. If he indeed hires Todd Monken, I think it'll be pretty clear that he was not the leak. There was no issue between John and Todd. There's no way you would you're under no obligation to hire him again. So if these two come together for a second time, I think that would show you that their relationship is good. Did John at the podium have a problem with him not running enough? Yes, he did, as we all did. But that doesn't negate how good of a coordinator Todd Monken was and is. The second thing I want to say about coordinators is I will be very curious to see what happens with Zach Orr. My prediction will be that John does not hire him as a defensive coordinator. Had John stayed on, Steve Bisciotti said it, he would have pushed for coordinator changes. It seemed that the players that leaked that news, because when the Baltimore Sun was writing it, they said one veteran player said. So I know it was players that leaked the feelings towards the negative feelings towards Todd Monken. But so maybe Steve Bisciotti would have pushed for a coordinator change on the offensive side, and I surely hope he would have pushed for an offensive coordinator on the defensive side. It was not a great start for Zach Orr when you had to bring in veteran guys to come and help him out, and you're in like the 30s, the bottom of the league when it comes to pass defense. So that being said, I'm curious if he would bring Zach Orr on to his onto his coaching staff, maybe again as a linebackers coach or something else like that. I don't know if Zach wants a fresh new start with somebody else. I don't know, but I'm very curious to see what happens with Zach Orr.
Yeah, you go back within the last few months and really within the last 2 years, and now you see why. Like, maybe John knew that this time was coming to an end. And while it came across as if he was protecting Zach at times through some of their shortcomings on that side of the ball, I do have a level of respect for how he did that, knowing that Zach, this was his first go around as a play caller, whereas Todd was kind of cut from that same Harbaugh old school cloth, had a ton of experience prior, both at the collegiate and pro level. And I hope Zach gets another opportunity, Sarah. And it would make a lot of sense if he ends up going to continue with John, assuming that the Dallas Cowboys or elsewhere that might be looking at Zach from a play calling standpoint, assuming that doesn't come to fruition for him. Maybe it would make sense for him to get involved with the Giants organization as a positional coach. We know that he's a stud linebacker mind from his playing days, and he was a pretty darn good positional coach in Baltimore as well before he was promoted. So that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. I'm with you there. And when you take a look at opposite ends of the spectrum, if you will, or as ESPN research labels it, statistical leaderboards, The Ravens and Giants have been on opposite ends here over the last 5 seasons. And as ESPN says, the Giants will hope John Harbaugh can turn things around in New York. You take a look at the win percentage that the Giants have lived in. It has been a harsh reality over the last 5 years. They are 31st league-wide over 5 seasons in win percentage. They're 30th in points per game. They're 27th in opponent points per game allowed, 29th in yards per game, 30th in opponent yards per game. It's been pitiful, to say the very least. There's been a head coach carousel there, as we've already alluded to. They haven't had the quarterback. Maybe they do now in Jackson Dart. And as for the Ravens, yeah, it hasn't been good enough in terms of what this fan base has yearned for since that Super Bowl title run over a decade ago. But they have lived in a level of consistency with organizational structure that, as you referenced earlier in the week, makes a handful of teams around the league, call it a third of the teams around the league on an annual basis that typically have this kind of turnover at the top, foam at the mouth for somebody like John Harbaugh and the Ravens organization for what they've able to do. And you see the statistics over there over the 5 seasons. They're tied for 5th in win percentage league-wide, 6th in points per game, 4th in opponents' points per game allowed, 5th in yards per game, and 11th in opponent yards per game. So pretty clear why he's seen as the savior. It's ultimately going to be a results-driven business. But Sarah, I can tell you this, having grown up in upstate New York, you know I have a ton of Giants fans in my life, whether it be in my family or in my friend circle. The amount of texts that I woke up to today with crazy, lofty, big statements, and like almost to say that this is the greatest day in franchise history since the last Super Bowl. That's like the sentiment in East Rutherford today, knowing that John Harbaugh is taking over their program.
I mean, maybe I'll just cut to this now. There is let me bring this up. I'll cut forward just because you're talking about how like they're just so excited over there. So there's this Twitter account, Thomas J. Quinlan, the 4th, by the way. He's a morning radio show executive producer. This guy woke up at like 3 a.m. to the news. This video cracks me up. I think it is symbolic of what they're feeling over there in New York. Listen to him from his treadmill, how excited he is about this hire.
All right. So before I begin my workout, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning. I went to bed last night with hope. I prayed. Something new, something better, something that represents tradition. Please, please, football gods, you named the football the Duke after the owner, Wellington Mara. Today I wake up, January 15th, 2026, after Ben McAdoo, Pat Shermer, Joe Judge, Brian Daboll, all just losers. And I wake up this morning and my football team has a winner. My football team finally has a winner again. Years of mediocrity, years of disrespecting the tradition, years of an apathetic fan base has finally come to an end. There's hope again. There's hope again in the swamps of New Jersey. You don't know what this means. You don't know how much it means. John Harbaugh is now officially the coach of the New York Football Giants. If you're a Cowboys fan, if you're a Reds Commanders fan, or if you're an Eagles fan, when you wake up today, just remember and know this for the next 9 months. Daddy is home.
This is how they're feeling over there. So it's funny because Kip Bayless, who notoriously, right, is a Cowboys fan, he writes this morning, he goes, as a Cowboys fan, John Harbaugh coaching the Giants doesn't scare me. He doesn't have Lamar Jackson or Ray Lewis. Thomas here quote retweets that and says, "Shut up, loser. Daddy's home." Okay, so Bobby, knowing that we've been covering John Harbaugh for years, we've obviously seen him in the Ray Lewis era. We saw him at the end of the Ray Lewis era and Joe Flacco in his second contract. And then we saw him with Lamar Jackson. We do not have ties to New York Giants. I get why they're excited. I think John is a great coach. That being said, I do think they might be overinflating it a little bit. I mean, John Harbaugh, he's going to have, they kind of pointed this out, he's going to have the 5th pick in this year's draft, so that'll help him build. He's going to have rookie Jackson Dart take another step forward. Quarterbacks are everything. They have $20 million in cap space. Maybe they'll get up to $30 million. It's not that much. The Ravens are already have about that much too. And so what do you think are realistic expectations? I don't know that I'd be calling John Harbaugh a daddy and daddy's home. And I mean, all these other teams, you better watch out. I do think he's a better coach than who they have. Brian Dable, Joe Judge, Pat Shurmur, Ben McAdoo. I get their excitement. What is your expectations? Do you think that John Harbaugh will lead the Giants to a playoff berth for the first time? When it happens, it would be the first time in 4 years.
Next year?
And at the end of 2026, will he lead them to the playoffs?
I could see them at best qualifying as a wild card. Yes. I think it's Philadelphia's division to lose moving forward, despite all the dysfunction there. Too much talent for them to cough up that division. I could see them becoming this year's Jacksonville. Sure. Playing a wild card weekend. I think they have a level of core players, Sarah, not to mention, I think he'll end up bringing, not only will he bring members of the staff in Baltimore, I would think, and from his past to help bring that level of structure and stability, but I think that you're going to see some free agents that come along as well to Baltimore. But let me just throw out some names that he knows he's going to have at his disposal coming up next year. You already mentioned one, and I mentioned a couple as well. And they're all offensive players. Jackson Dart, of course, this entire operation doesn't go without him. Cam Scatterbo, really talented running back who went down with a brutal injury midway through the year. They were rolling offensively prior to him going down. He's likely to be back. Malik Neighbors, if he wasn't hurt this year, would we be referring to him as a top 10 wide receiver? Maybe. Dude's the dog. So those are three players offensively that are part of your core. You look at the defensive side of the ball, names like Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns. I mean, they got some dogs on this team. Granted, they're going to need a lot of help, obviously, to turn this thing around, and they have to draft well, and they have to see what they can do in free agency. So what I would answer your question with is I think at best he can turn them around to be a wild card team. When you look at that division, it's there for the taking outside of Philadelphia. Dallas doesn't scare you. The Commanders obviously took a big step back this year. A lot of that hinged on Jaden Daniels' health in year 2. And now they're going in a different direction, which is one of the reasons why Cliff Kingsbury, who was just fired by them as their OC, is interviewing for the Ravens. So that's what I would say. Well, what do you think? Yeah,
I think I'm in that neighborhood as you. I'd say he's going to put him in playoff contention. I do think the Commanders could be primed for a bounce back year. I mean, you do. You have Jaden Daniels. I mean, he was a sensation his rookie year. I am wondering, obviously you've got Scatterbo and Neighbors. They're both coming off injuries. They might have slow starts, right? Both those guys. I know Scatterbo is expect to be back with his ankle around training camp. I mean, these are all just speculative predictions, right, of when they could come back. Neighbors may be closer to maybe week 1, if week 1. So I think that'll be an obstacle that they'll have to overcome. I think it's a tough division, though. I think, as you said, the Eagles, I think the Commanders could bounce back. And color me curious. Maybe I'm not as saying it with my chest stuck out as much as Skip Bayless, but I am curious how John Harbaugh looks without stars like Ray Lewis or Lamar Jackson, because there was that period in between where after the Super Bowl and before Lamar was drafted, where the Ravens were the definition of what that fan just said, the definition of mediocre. And so he's going to have the task to really take Jackson Dart to another level. And maybe he can if those skill players return and are healthy. So I'm going to say I think he'll put the Giants in playoff contention. I'm just not there for a wild card yet.
That's totally fair. I think when you look at what the Patriots were able to do this year and perhaps how they benefited from the fourth place schedule, they finished last in their division last year. So, I remember what was the big talking point coming into the Sunday night game last month? It was, who are the Patriots? Who have they beaten? And we were saying, well, and we had on, our Patriots guest, and he was like, oh, look, it is a fourth place schedule at the end of the day.
True.
And now John's going to have a chance to do exactly what Mike did.
Mm-hmm.
Both have the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Jackson's going to go on to have an MVP caliber season the way that Drake May did this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing it's Stafford's gig to lose. Well, actually, who is the betting favorite? We haven't even been paying attention this year. It's one of those two who's going to end up with it. There's some similarities there. And that's what John's going to have in front of him. A fourth place schedule in that NFC East division. We'll see what he ends up doing with it.
I think you make a great point. John Harbaugh needs to do with Jackson Dart what Vrabel did with Drake May, what Ben Johnson did with Caleb Williams, what Sean Payton's done with Bo Nix. Like he's gonna have to develop him and help him get that. The quarterback is everything to a head coach. It's everything. So if he can get Jackson Dart to take that next step, of course they'll be in the playoffs. But that's what it all hinges on.
Can I throw one thing out there? Because you and I got into this discussion before I had a chance to react to the producer. The best part about that clip, and you mentioned it, one, right? And I worked those radio hours earlier on in my career. You're right. It's 3 or 4 a.m. and he's just on a rant on the treadmill. Hilarious. That one. 2, the Jersey accent is absolutely exquisite. I mean, come on. And so, look, I think a lot of us can agree, and we understand that what you see on the screen is what this is. The majority of this widespread reaction that it's their Super Bowl is because of what you've seen on the screen. They've lived in mediocrity for a decade. It has been a carousel at the coach, quarterback, skill position, contractual players leaving across the board. It has been a very difficult decade for that fandom. Just ask TJ Trossett about it. And so the fact that Harbaugh is coming in, to your point, as a Super Bowl winner with a track record and their chance to win now with the quarterback who they feel like is their franchise guy, of course you're going to get this reaction. And then you add in the New York market and it's going nuclear. It's unbelievable.
Definitely going to go nuclear. Okay, I have one more question off the cuff for both of us. Okay.
Right.
And I think we're going to need to revisit this question once the Ravens have their head coach. Okay. But I was talking about this with my husband on the way to our workout this morning. Okay. He asked me this very question, kind of putting in context of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They're considered this duo, the greatest duo of all time. They have a split. It's clear that Tom Brady is the one that drove that success because he went on, won more. How many championships did he win 2 without Bill or just 1?
Just 1, 7
Just 1.
total, and I think Bill has 6, right?
Yeah. Okay. So we won a Super Bowl without Bill. Patriots go under until they let him go and get Vrabel. Tom was clearly more successful without Bill. Bill has not been successful without Tom. We don't know who the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens are yet, so we will revisit this. But you just said that the Giants, you feel like wild card is where they could get to under John Harbaugh. Do you see more success for John Harbaugh with the Giants or Lamar Jackson with the Ravens and a new head coach?
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, you're right, because it really does hinge on who they pick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you could. Like, Jackson's too unproven. He's 1 year in. I don't know how it couldn't
Jackson
be
Dart,
Lamar.
you mean, not Lamar Jackson. Jackson Dart. Yeah.
Thank you. Jaxson.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart is too unproven at this point for me to go in that. How could I? You know? So, like, it's like, even if they get the head coach wrong in Baltimore, which you'd like to think Steve Bisciotti will not allow that to happen. But if for some reason they don't find their next John Harbaugh, to put it in his words, I don't know how you could go 7.5 years of sample size, 3 seasons of which have been MVP caliber, versus 1 season of what they go this year? They got like 2 or 3 wins in New York this year with
4.
Jackson, and granted 4 wins, and granted he had no help around him, and I think he has a bright future, but that's an easy one for now. I'll go Lamar.
Yeah, definitely Lamar. And of course, we're pulling out a scenario that they're both healthy, right? Dart and Lamar are both healthy. Yeah. I do believe that the quarterback is the greatest single factor in a team's success. That being said, a coach can get in a great quarterback's way. I have faith that Steve Bisciotti is going to be able to lead this interview process to get a coach that would not get in his way. And so I think hands down, I'm going to say Lamar is going to have a better chance at success if he's healthy than John Harbaugh with the Giants.
And speaking of that search, we're going to get to it in just a bit. It rolls on. 10 conducted interviews by the Ravens, as they announced yesterday. We'll catch you up to speed on everything and include this new little twist as we transition. Yes, we see you, live chat. We hear you. We feel you. We will be transitioning from the Harbaugh news into the Ravens head coach search. But first, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep, one of our longest standing sponsors here inside the vault. And we hope that you'll consider enhancing your sleep in 2026 by visiting mantasleep.com, going to check out what they have to offer, from sleep masks to white noise machines to sleep add-ons like earplugs, the special bundles tab where they put it all together and give you a bunch of different options to put your sleep on a new level in 2026. And if you find something you like it, check out, use our discount code that is VAULT10, VAULT10, to get you 10% off your next purchase. We appreciate Manta Sleep. We appreciate all of you for continuing to support the show, because when you support our brand sponsors, that is directly supporting us. So thanks, guys. And that brings us to Super Chat. Sarah, D-Rod gets us started this afternoon.
Yes, we're going to bring this in. He says, please tell me you've seen the Steve Bisciotti song that the Pat McAfee show created. He has his own theme song now. Happy Thursday, Vault family. Have you seen it, Bobby?
Oh, yeah. Charisma writes, we need pass rush in a bad way. Do you think we try our chances in free agency? Or should EDC package some picks, trade up to try to draft Ruben Bain, who's going to play for a national title on Monday night? Charisma, the latter of those two, when it comes to DaCosta and the way that he does business, highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. You got to get the Lamar extension done, take some swings in free agency, continue to draft. And as he says it, Sarah, yesterday, you said it. He refers to draft picks as lottery tickets. Some of these at some point have to develop. And maybe that ends up being Mike Green in year 2. You never know. Under a new staff, new defensive coordinator, we'll see where Chuck Smith ends up. But they all took a backward step, obviously, this year in that category, defensively speaking. I want my ball back, writes, good luck, coach. We will always love you, respect you, and appreciate everything that you did for us. Nice sentiment there. Yep. From I want my ball back. Nice cover photo there, too, with all of his Ravens merch. Kieran's here with us today.
My wife is a Giants fan. After seeing the Ravens with me over the years, she's cautiously optimistic, but just wants to win at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's been a long 10 years. Compensatory prick, right? What signs and symptoms will you be looking for in the Giants to confirm that John was indeed an impediment to the Ravens' success? Ooh, what signs and symptoms will you be looking for in the Giants to confirm that John was indeed an impediment to the Ravens' success? Maybe just like, Sarah, some of the trends continuing, right? Like if some of the shortcomings in Baltimore over the last several years become a trend, meaning fourth quarter leads being coughed up, game mismanagement, clock mismanagement, if some of those things start to come up, I mean, those
or just an overall mediocre, or just an overall mediocre record. That's why I pointed out between after the Super Bowl and before Lamar Jackson, will it return to those mediocre years? Mediocre. How am I saying that right?
Mediocre
years.
Fair.
I'll be looking for that too.
Fair. Yeah, years plural, right? Not after year. You wouldn't like, okay, yep, done. Put a ball like after 1 year.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a building situation going on over there.
I was going to say, I think it's a 5 or 6 year contract that he's getting. So they're investing in him. Remember, he's 63 years old. Like, this is not one of those young gun hires. Now, John obviously feels like he still has a lot left to give.
Lifting weights every morning.
Oh,
Looks
is
great
he
for 63? Are you kidding me?
Man, I'll never forget when my ex at the time lived in Cockeysville, in like the Lutherville Timonium area. Not Cockeysville, Lutherville Timonium area.
Yeah.
And I think I told this to you one time. I walked in at 7 a.m. I don't know why on a Saturday morning. I was going to a 7 a.m. fitness class at F45. But what do you know? Ingrid and John in there getting after it. And I'm at the station next to them. And they are both in ridiculous shape. So you're not kidding.
Yeah.
Along the physique front, they both still.
And the fact that he didn't even take a year off of paid vacation from Steve Bisciotti and just be like, you know what, maybe I'll do TV for a year. I'll take in the check from Steve. Like, no, he has so much energy for this game. He's not. I mean, he's 63 in age, but he's not in like either physical form or like his spirit. Like he's not 63.
I don't think that's a Harbaughism. It's just not the way they're wired at all. Big time off. Dreams writes, Harbaugh and the Giants love to blow leads. Match made in heaven. But I don't know why Jeff Zaribek doesn't like Brian Flores. He brings championship DNA. Last thing you want is him going to Pittsburgh, where Lamar struggles most. KP is with us.
Says, I wish Harbaugh success and many 9 and 8 seasons in New York.
My Timber Shivered says, I've been a dude for 40 years. And Bobby has a better chance of getting me pregnant than Harbaugh having more success than Lamar. I wasn't sure where that super chat was going, but thank you, my Timber Shivered. KP's with us again. That's insane.
There are so many obstacles to that happening. Okay, Jackson Dart, says Kobe, threw for 33 yards in a game this year. Woof. That's crazy disrespectful. Jackson needs to prove he's an NFL starting QB first. Before we mention him with 8. I wasn't mentioning him with 8. I was just asking what Harbaugh would do without 8.
Apollo Creed's young nephew writes, Brian Burns is about to lose his mind when he has to drop back in coverage all game long. And KP writes, Bobby, did Salah's check clear yet? KP, don't do me like that, Kobe. You know, Sarah, just to clue you in on what's going on the personal channel side of things, there's a percentage of our audience, my audience over there, that feels like I have an agenda for Robert Saleh, which of course they feel like I have an agenda for Robert Saleh. No, the check did not clear. It's never even come in. I'm not on his payroll, KP. Manny says, what about Sarah being our new defensive coordinator? Would you accept that role?
I mean, I wouldn't have him drop back every time. And I really have an aversion to prevent defense, but then I'd have a lot of other issues, such as just scheming things up. And yeah, no, you don't want me.
Thanks, Manny. Kobe writes, Giants fans happy until they see Orr, meaning Zach, is their new defensive coordinator. AP's on one today, huh? He's just throwing shots around.
We hope Harbaugh does do that. Let's do it.
Man.
There's going to be so many former Ravens up there. It's going to be crazy. Pat Ricard can be up there. He's a free agent. Isaiah Likely. I'm going to be ticked if he gets Isaiah Likely, though.
This is going to be fascinating to watch how this plays out. And Ravens North probably, like we said, will develop along with Ravens West. Thanks, KP, and thanks to all of you.
Who's the Giants tight end?
Their tight end is Theo. They got a few on their roster. Theo Johnson is tight end 1.
No.
Theo Johnson, Daniel Bellinger. They're going to be looking for a tight end, I would think.
Oof, if they get Isaiah.
Maybe.
Fine, get Isaiah in the NFC if it has to be. You know, I'm serious about this. I'm going to be ticked if Harbaugh does not sign Daniel Fa'alele. He better sign him. You stuck by him this long, and we had to endure it. You better sign Fa'alele, and you better have him start.
Well, hey, as for the likely conversation, though, is Isaiah part of that contingent that maybe, didn't necessarily push back against the idea of protecting John Harbaugh or didn't necessarily go to bat if he was one of the players that may have been spoken to about John's job security? We're going to figure that out, perhaps without actually figuring that out, depending on where he lands. Their right guard right now is a guy named Greg Van Roten. Left guard is John Runyon. So we'll see what they do. And a few more super chats have come in, so we might as well get caught up before we shift gears here. Camden says, let all of us Ravens fans be real for a second. Harbaugh is too dependent on a good offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. And Replicate Media writes, I love how happy we all are for Harb's group hug. Group hug on this Thursday. Appreciate you guys for being with us. As always, we've got over 2,600 concurrents and counting on a busy Thursday. And Sarah, a busy off season continues. Get ahead. Go in there.
I'm sorry. Greg Van Roten, their right guard, was just re-signed at the end of the 2024 season.
Sounds like Daniel's in trouble then. Unless they want to transition him to left guard and have him compete.
Yeah, transition him to left guard. You already transitioned him to guard. Let's go.
And I'm pretty sure John Runyon's pretty safe in terms of what he's been able to do. Oddly enough, he is he's married to and just had his first kid with a Loyola classmate of mine. So oddly, I've followed his career, and I think he's one of the better starting guards out there at the left guard position for New York. So we'll see if Harbs continues to have him as his starter. Jonathan writes, Baltimore Giants. And Rodrigo writes, who's celebrating 4 months of channel membership with us, No. We have a slide on this later on. Ben Cleveland has signed a reserved futures deal. He is with the Chargers to stay, Rodrigo. Look at this. Sarah's pulling it up right now. It's a reserve future contract for Ben Cleveland, who was brought in, Sarah, prior to Wild Card Weekend on the practice squad after being released by the Ravens, served that 3-game suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy. Rodrigo, he's in Chargers country to stay, baby, at least for the time being.
Is Jim going to do him dirty like John and just never give him a chance? What's he doing?
We'll see. You think he did him dirty? I don't know about dirty.
Dirty's a little bit strong, but he never gave him a chance. Well, he did throw him under the bus. How about that?
Yeah. I think the chances were there. Maybe not to the fan base's satisfaction in terms of starts. People wanted him to give more chances for him as a starter.
Yes.
I think behind the scenes, he got plenty of them.
People meaning me.
Just Rave Kingdom, actually.
Yeah. I wasn't quite on Rave Kingdom's level.
D-Rod writes, send the Daniel number 77. D-Rod he's ready to ship Daniel up to East Rutherford, and that is getting plenty of reaction in terms of who's going, who's staying, who's going to end up with Jim, who's going to end up with John, and who's going to end up with whoever the Ravens head coach is. And that's where we shift our attention to now. Appreciate you guys for being with us on this Thursday. Boy, it's been a busy week, Sarah. It's been a busy start to the year, and this busy offseason rolls on. Over 2,700 concurrents here at the moment with us. If you could like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership this offseason. Goes a long way to continue to build this channel. And Sarah and I will be with you all year long, as we have been for 4 years running now. And guys, as always, we'll get to more super chats as they come in throughout the rest of the show. Sarah, we learned yesterday you can add 2 more candidates to the conducted interview list, if you will. 10 total now. The latest, Jesse Minter and Jim Schwartz joining a list, as Jeff notes here, which included Vance Joseph and Davis Webb last week. They're under Sean Payton in Denver, and of course will play after the first round bye this weekend in the divisional round. Clint Kubiak, also on that first round bye for Seattle. He's the offensive play caller under Mike McDonald. By the way, Vance Joseph, defensive coordinator for Sean Payton, pass game coordinator and quarterbacks coach Davis Webb with the Broncos. Ex-Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski, that was last week. Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, Dolphins defensive coordinator and ex-Raven, both as an assistant and as a player, Anthony Weaver. Ex-Commanders offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores, whose contract is set to expire. Jim Schwartz, like I mentioned, defensive coordinator in Cleveland, and defensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers, Jesse Minter. So that's where things stand, Sarah, in terms of overall conducted interviews. As for what's coming up, Robert Saleh, who's going to coach under Kyle Shanahan as the 49ers defensive coordinator in this weekend's divisional round game against Seattle. He's going to interview the next day. You talk about a quick turnaround. They play at 8 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. He will then interview, I'd imagine this is going to be virtually, with the Ravens and the Titans on Sunday. And Jeff has the list, as we've already discussed, in terms of who is on their docket in the coming days and weeks ahead. So now I know you've also prepared some interesting nuance with the experience that has been the interview process so far for some of the offensive minds. And I know Peter Schrager gave some great insight into that.
Yeah, Peter Schrager, and we had a tip off of this yesterday from a super chat. He said it in 2 different shows, but I'm going to grab it from McAfee. Peter said that these interviews are almost like dual interviews. There's a lot of candidates and not enough head coaching opportunities. And so a lot of these guys are interviewing for both the head coaching job and one of the coordinator jobs, according to Schrager. And when he was on the Pat McAfee show, he was talking about it after Kingsbury had just been here for an interview.
Cliff, he interviewed yesterday with the Ravens, did it in person. And he interviewed both for the head coaching job and the offensive coordinator job, which I think is really interesting. And I think Mike McDaniel's going to do the same thing with Baltimore as well. They're bringing these guys in, and it's DaCosta, it's Sashi, and it's I believe Bisciotti has input, but I don't know if he's in this round of interviews. And they just want to hear you talk because they haven't had a fresh voice in there for 18 years. And they want to hear what your philosophies are, and they want to hear what you're going to maximize and do with Lamar, because this doesn't come from the Ravens side or Cliff, but Lamar, this is one of the greatest offensive talents we've ever seen enter this league. And that window, as huge as it is, with his contract and all that stuff, I don't know if Lamar plays the same way at the later part of his 30s. So right now, the next 3, 4, 5 years, we have to strike the iron. You have to make the right hire. And there has to be a connection between quarterback, coach, and offensive coordinator. So what I thought is interesting is McDaniel, Cliff, they can meet in person because they're currently not employed by these teams. And they're interviewing for both positions. And maybe Salah's the coach and Cliff's the OC. Or maybe Jim Schwartz is the coach and Mike McDaniel's the OC. Pretty cool way they're going about this. They just want to meet and learn and hear about everything. And I believe Cliff has a request for Tennessee to interview for their head coaching job, but that hasn't been scheduled yet. So Cliff's wide open. I think Baltimore makes a lot of sense, either in that head coaching job or offensive coordinator. But if it doesn't go that way, he's cool. He's open. He wants to see what's next also.
Yeah, I love this, Bobby, because why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? For several reasons, as Peter just pointed out. Number one, we need fresh ideas. We need fresh voices. So that's on the offensive side, but they're also talking to a lot of great defensive minds like Brian Flores or like Jim Schwartz. I don't even know how many of these guys are legit head coaching candidates, as much as hey, what would you do to stop Lamar? You know what I mean? What would be your approach to it? And so they're able to get into the building some of the top minds that are in the NFL right now, both on the offensive side and the defensive side. So that alone is a good reason to interview as many people as possible. And they want this job. So they've got to spill it. This can't be hey, I'm going to not tell you what I would do with Lamar until you hire me. They can't do that. They got to go all in and convince the Ravens brass, you got to pick me because I have the best ideas with Lamar. It can't be just trust me, bro. Trust me. Once you hire me, then I'll reveal it to you. I guarantee they are spilling it all to try to get that job. Now, the second part is not only just to get those fresh voices, but what if you hit it off with multiple people? And some of these guys are shoot, I didn't get a head coaching job anywhere, but I see if I do want to take that next step, this is a good opportunity to showcase what I can do with Lamar Jackson. So say it is a Mike McDaniel, right? Okay, so a couple slides down here. Let me skip a couple of these. Okay, so Greg Auman of Fox Sports.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. That's right. He is a friend of the show. I forgot that he was on here. But he tweeted out, former Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel will interview for the Bucs OC job Friday. He would consider a great OC opportunity better than a not great head coaching vacancy. Okay. So why wouldn't he be you know what? Maybe Salah was hired or I don't know, any one of these guys. Maybe it's Jesse Minter. Right? So Jesse's the defensive mind that you want back here. Or it's Brian Flores or something like that. Mike's like, okay, let me see what else is out on the market. I could maybe become the head coach of the Browns or the Steelers who don't have a quarterback, or the Falcons, or any one of these, or I could go be the OC for Lamar Jackson. And then I could sit there the way Eric DeCosta sat behind Ozzie Newsome, waiting for the prime opportunity. Now, in Eric DeCosta's situation, he wanted to stay with the Ravens. He could sit out and be like, I'm going to wait until a prime head coaching opportunity comes up. And until then, I'm going to be the offensive coordinator for Lamar Jackson. And I'm going to show that I can get him over the hump when John Harbaugh and all of his many coordinators couldn't do it. Same thing with Brian Flores here. So John Keim tweeted that Washington is interviewing Brian Flores for what now? Not a head coaching opportunity, obviously, but the defensive coordinator position. So Kevin Seifert of ESPN says, tweets, Kevin O'Connell, Vikings head coach, has said repeatedly, as recently as yesterday, that he anticipates Brian Flores returning to Minnesota as the defensive coordinator unless he gets a head coach job. But, says Kevin, here we are. Flores wants to see if he can uncover any better options. No other way to read this, right? Why would he go out and interview for other defensive coordinator positions if he wasn't interested in doing that? So, point being, these are two guys the Ravens have interviewed for head coaching opportunities, but also probably doubled up, as Peter Schrager's reporting, to find out if they could be good coordinator fits. And if they feel like being with Baltimore would be the better stepping stone to perhaps having a head coaching opportunity in the future, why wouldn't they take it? Why wouldn't they? So I love this twist that's happening in these interviews.
When you've been in Miami and other organizations with dysfunction, which several of the Ravens candidates have been, which you've just noted, Brian in Miami, Mike in Miami, Robert in New York. There's a reason why Greg is tweeting that. That's not just like fodder. No, that's legit. They've been through that before. And Steve literally said as much in the press conference. We are keen to their circumstances. Like, put it all together. There are tough jobs out there. Steve does not believe his opening is one of them. I don't think you and I do either. They're built to win, the Ravens are. Does that mean they're not without weakness? Oh, no. There's plenty of them, and they got to fill those voids this offseason. And that's what Eric DeCosta is going to be tested with and tasked with. And then there's going to have to be some development as well from the Mike Greens of the world and the Nate Wiggins of the world and others. But you better believe when you've been through the tough job experience with a level of dysfunction first, you're going to be a little mindful the next time through. And the same goes for why the Oregon quarterback probably just decided to stay in school, Sarah, not just because of the NIL era, but he's taking a look at where he might land. Let's be honest.
That can happen every year, though. The worst teams are always going to be at the top of the draft.
It can happen every year, but there's programs like the Jets where Sam Darnold goes to die and other head coaches every few years go to die and then go, what's Sam done since? He's resurrected his career. You hate to make it as simple as that, but a lot of this has to do with the NIL. These guys are going to make more money staying in school than they would in some cases if they don't end up as a top 10 quarterback. Think about that. That's insane. But yeah, this is fast. This is fascinating nuance. Great stuff from Peter, and he wasn't done there either.
Yeah, in fact, like this is another reason why with Steve Bisciotti telling Lamar, you better get your butt on my plane when I get called up for the finalists. It's another reason for Lamar to be there because maybe Lamar, it finds chemistry with two people. And Lamar is like, yeah, I like this head coach and I do like this offensive coordinator also. So Lamar wants to be a part of that. Peter Schrager, when he was on ESPN's First Take, he said that he didn't feel like Steve Bisciotti was offering an invitation to Lamar when he said, well, you can be on my jet. He thinks that Steve Bisciotti was offering Lamar a challenge.
If you were to poll 32 different executives, if you were to poll people around the league, I think the Ravens would finish in the top 2 or 3 as best run organizations in all of football. And of course that includes Harbaugh, but it precedes Harbaugh too when Brian Billick was the coach. They have an owner who cares. They have an owner who spends money. And with Ozzie Newsome in the room, which he still very much is, you have a thread line from the Ray Lewis, Ed Reed years to Eric DaCosta, which is more of the Lamar current situation that they're in now, where they go to the playoffs every year and they can't get over the hump. What I looked at when Steve Bisciotti said that in the press conference, it wasn't this, hey, we're handing the reins over to Lamar. It was a challenge to Lamar Jackson. This is going to be an 8-hour day. And when we interview a coach, we're not just sitting here in a boardroom and saying, what do you like about football? We're going to take you, and you're going to take us through your scheduling, through your entire staff, your nutrition, how you plan on using a strength coach to make us better so we don't get injured down the line. And that is going to be not just one candidate, 4 or 5 or 6 candidates. We're talking about 8-hour days sitting, absorbing, and then you're not going to be the one making the pick. I'm still making the pick, but we're going to give you a voice. And that is a challenge to Lamar Jackson, because what Steve Bisciotti is saying is, if I'm flying myself up to Florida, from Florida on the private jet, and I'm going to be doing these interviews for 8 hours a day, I am giving you the grace and giving you the opportunity to do it as well. Do it. Be there. Be a part of this and offer your perspective. What I would add as
Okay, then it gets into more of the interviews that we just talked about. I agree with Peter. I think it was more than an invitation because Steve Bisciotti is going all in on Lamar Jackson, and he wants Lamar Jackson to help him be all in the best way possible. He wants to make him the highest paid quarterback again. He let go of John Harbaugh. He's bringing in a brand new coaching staff. He's going to bring in new players around him. I mean, he's basically saying, hey, I'm going to give you another, couple $100 million. Will you please come up here and help me pick out your new coaching staff? And I really don't know what valid reason there would be for Lamar to say, nah, I'm good. I'm going to pass. You do this. Even if and I get he's much more of like an introvert or anything like that. But like, listen, it'll be like a week of your time.
Yep.
And you can help handpick your coach and maybe your offensive coordinator. So I don't know what the reason would be for him to say, nah, I'd prefer not to.
There shouldn't be one. I mean, look at the end of this. And by the way, 48 hours ago, you and I had the exact same interpretation of what Peter's was.
Yeah.
The challenge. Not an invitation, a challenge, or both. But the challenge obviously has stronger meaning to it than an invitation. An invitation suggests that you decide. The challenge is like, yo, we kind of expect this. And at the end, so we'll find out, that carries some weight to it. And you're right. He chose his franchise quarterback over his friend, over his brother, over his longtime partner, as he says it. And that was the right decision. I think a lot of us agree that was the right decision. Because ultimately, as Brady and Belichick found out, you can't go where you want to go without the quarterback. And the Ravens can't go where they want to go without Lamar. And if this year wasn't Exhibit A for why that's 100% tried and true, I don't know what is. The record over the last 8 years suggests that, Sarah. It screams it. Matter of fact, doesn't just suggest it. It screams it. I think they improved to 4-11 when Snoop won a game or two this year for them. Without Lamar throughout the era, 4-11. They win over 70% of the games when they have him under center. They're well below 500 without him. They need him, and they need him to be intimately involved with this head coach search once it gets down to the finalists.
Yes, and sorry, I got distracted by a tweet here. Just, there's a lot of tweets that say, word on the street. The streets are always talking, but this one from Garrett Ferguson, if you follow him on Twitter, he said, word on the street is Davis Webb smashed the first round of the interviews for the Ravens. Won't be surprised if he's on the short list for second round of interviews. With that said, he still wants Clint Kubiak or Jesse Minter. So yeah, I've heard that Davis is picking up steam, but back to Lamar here. I thought it was like a fun watch on First Things First, where Broussard, who's always been a Ravens fan, he's always cheering for him. And then Nick Wright is obviously the Kansas City Chiefs guy. And he's like notorious for trying to downplay Lamar and his success and all that kind of stuff. So Brew brings on a couple graphics. Okay. For anybody who doubts that Lamar still has it. I just love it. Those people that have never believed in Lamar he's banged up all year. They're jumping on this bandwagon like, oh, Lamar, he's starting to wear down. He can't do this without his legs. All this kind of stuff. So Brew brings in this graphic. And he says, this is a down year for Lamar Jackson. Here's his overall stats in a down year. Passer rating 103.8, which ranked 4th in the NFL in a down year. Yards per pass, you got to look at the averages because he missed so many games, with his injuries. So yards per pass, 8.4, 3rd in the NFL. Touchdown percentage at 7.0, also 3rd in the NFL. Touchdown to interception ratio, definitely a down year for Lamar, 21-7, but that's still in the top 10, tied for 9th in the NFL. Then Brew took it to another level. He said, well, how about we just check out the games where he was healthy? And how do you measure that? So what he did is he took the games that Lamar played when he didn't miss any practice leading into the game. That's how he defined it. And when I tell you, Nick Wright was trying to poke holes in these arguments. And Brew just kept shutting him down. He's like, okay, fine. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's legit. So even Nick Wright, one of his biggest critics, accepted this as legit. Here's Lamar's numbers on the weeks where he didn't miss practice and therefore was considered healthy. Okay. Passer rating, 135.1. Completion percentage, 71.3. Touchdown to interception ratio, oh, it's so Lamar, 17-2. And then yards per pass, 9.6. Lamar still has it. This is why Steve Bisciotti is still going all in on Lamar over his friend and head coach of 18 years. He still believes in Lamar. He's going to give a contract extension that would probably put Lamar here another 5 years. And he believes he's not just saying with his words at a press conference. He's saying with his actions, with firing his coaching staff and offering another deal that I think your window is at least for the next 5 years. So come in here and help me do this. Lamar still has it. I'm holding on to this graphic, Bobby, I guarantee narratives are going to come up once he signs his contract.
Yeah. I mean, of course, you got to give him a new contract. I don't even know why that's debated on that show.
Yeah.
But when you do see excluding November and December on there, it's kind of like, all right, we got to take these numbers with a grain of salt, knowing that, as you mentioned, he did miss a chunk of this season. But I can't believe that's even a debate. Yes, give him a new contract, move on. It was a down year for him. Statistically, he still has it. Legacy drives for back-to-back years in the postseason, even though this week 18 felt like a postseason game. But
yes, in the fourth quarter in that postseason game, he was phenomenal.
Back-to-back years of great fourth quarter performances. Obviously, the first half in both games, Buffalo and this year in Pittsburgh, were forgettable across the board for the entire team, himself included. But yeah, you got to pay him. You don't have a chance if you don't pay him. On a number of levels. One, from a team building standpoint, and two, because he won't be a part of your future after the 20. What's he under contract for if they don't get an extension done? 2 more years after this?
2 more years, 26 and 27.
Yeah. That's 74.5 and 26, which is just not, they're not doing that. I guess they can, as Steve said, we'll just add void years in. And Sarah, we know they haven't been afraid to do that over the years. Goodness.
New world. It's a new world.
Certainly. Okay. Back to Super Chats we go. My Timber Shivered says, 77 can't stop a parked car. He can leave. Rodrigo's here for you.
He said it would be painful for us if he somehow succeeded. But of course, nothing but the best for Ben. Oh, yeah, that would be brutal that we were screaming for Ben Cleveland and somehow he gets a chance and then he's solid.
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Trey Casey writes, Jesse Minter makes sense hearing what Peter Schrager said. And KP with a 20 spot writes, the dual track interviews make sense because the head coach we hire may not have the connections to hire a good OC/DC. Sala and Flores struggled to hire OCs with their previous teams, but we could hand them McDaniel or Kingsbury. My Timber Shivered's with us.
Says Jackson Dart and Bobby are about to be in the blue tent next to each other talking about G-Row's run scheme. Way different opinions.
I'm not even getting into that one. That's stemming back to yesterday's last 5 minutes of the show. I know that's from that. Christian writes,
Absolutely.
these Giants fans are hilarious right now, saying they're winning a chip. It's very entertaining. And JGY Rowe for you is here.
He says McDaniel is OC with Flores as DC, and whoever is head coach would be wild. We finally start winning by out coaching instead of losing by getting out coached alone. All 22 did a great video on McDaniel.
Sorry. If you have, here's the problem though. You're going to have 3 staff members who are being sought after for at least a handful of head coach vacancies. That's just not in what world? Meaning you'd have McDaniel. So JG, and maybe he's just living in the world of fantasy and a guy can dream, right?
Yeah.
So like McDaniel as a play caller, Flores as a play caller, guys that have multiple interviews at the head coach vacancy, meaning I think Flores has Pittsburgh and Baltimore, maybe Vegas. McDaniel has a slew of them. And then you're going to add in somebody as the head coach who also has a bunch of interviews. Like, it's just not, that's like, what world are we living in?
A fun one for now.
Joe Jenkins writes, good afternoon, Voltrons and Trosseteers. Bobby, thanks for the shout out on your show last night. I've seen a keyboard commandos got you stirred up. Don't let the haters get to you, bro. They aren't worth it.
There are a lot of keyboard commandos.
In the Discord, Sarah, at the start of the show, I wrote when I started seeing comments come in, I said, guys, hit me with an over-under number. Set the over-under on the amount of why the heck are we still talking about Harb's comments that it'll take for me today to crash out. The first over-under number
wouldn't
that
we
I got,
talk about Harbs? People are so funny.
I know.
Get over it.
The first number that came in from Kohler Express, his guess, 1. He set the over-under at 1. Hayes writes, guys, check out the news on McDaniel on my link. What link?
Bro, Hayes.
What link are you referring to? I don't think there's any news out there yet.
All I see is a phenomenal picture of him in the airport. Here.
He's bopping around. Who knows if that's been photoshopped or not, but he does look clean in it.
Oh,
Juan writes, why not get rid of these 4 contracts? Roquan, Bateman, Andrews, and Marlowe. Go get some difference makers. Make those trades. Go get Max Crosby and Justin Jefferson. And there is potentially a photoshopped
Is it
image
photoshopped?
of, if Ramey put it up, I don't. Ramey, you got to put some context to that, brother. We're doing real-time video right now. Tell us what you're looking at.
Would he
Ramey.
being coached like that anyway with the common folk? I don't know. Maybe he would.
You never know with Mike.
Didn't you run into like going down to the didn't when you were going down to the combine, you were on the same flight with Harbs and Ozzy?
I
Something
was,
like
and
that?
Eric. Yeah, the whole group last year.
Yeah. So I guess they do fly regular.
That was quite the flight.
It's only the owners that have the jets.
I'll never forget that flight. Southwest, DaCosta, Ozzy, Harbaugh, Matteo, you name it, all on the same flight. Couple rows behind me.
Says Baltimore, that blue TV screen behind him. He did an interview here. Who knows?
Baltimore. Look at that. Somebody, Ramey, give us some context, will you? Let's see. Juan, I don't know. Why would they do this? I appreciate the super chat, but this is crazy. Not sure if all 4 of those players are going to be back with him, but Marlon said he likes his chances at the percentage that Eric gave him recently. Mark's not going anywhere.
They
Bateman,
just
extended
signed
last
Mark.
offseason.
If they didn't want Mark, they wouldn't have just signed him.
Right. JG, for you.
The week 3 game against the Lions, 4 touchdowns. Also, Lamar's rushing numbers beginning of the season was on average for his career. He was hurt. Nick, wrong.
KP writes, Giants hire G-Row to roll Jackson out to the right. And Lewis writes, Ravens Vault, Bobby, quote, get me comedy show. LMAO. Ravens Vault, Bobby, get me comedy show. Get me.
I don't know.
Get me. Like get me crashed out, maybe? Maybe Lewis likes that entertainment. All I know, he looks darn good in his Vault gear. I know that in his profile photo. So thank you, Lewis. Appreciate you for being here. Don't you think he looks good in that? Look at him. He looks good in that.
Yeah. And by the way, extending a coach and extending a player, the coaches aren't against the cap, guys. Just because he fired Harbaugh after signing him an extension, that's not how they do business with players. It's not the same at all.
Let's get to some quick hits. Quick hits. Let's see. What do we have here? We have the Steelers' interest in Jesse Minter. Of course, he's one of the most. Yeah, he's getting looks at everywhere. And Pittsburgh's the latest for their head coaching job. He's under Jim Harbaugh. He's served there the last couple of years. And he won a national title at Michigan, Sarah, under Jim. And he was John Harbaugh's assistant from 17 to 20. So this will continue, I would imagine. We talked about Ben Cleveland.
Yeah.
And we have a couple non-completed ones. So why don't we just get to this one from
no,
Mark Ingram?
No. Just because I don't have pictures doesn't make them irrelevant. I think this was funny.
Sure?
Kadri Ishmael he's out to get EDC. Kevin Ostreicher tweeted a couple days ago, what are your takeaways from Steve Bisciotti and Eric DeCosta's press conference? Kadri's like, Eric better have one heck of a draft. Eric better sign Lamar. Eric better upgrade the team via free agency. Eric better recognize Steve will fire him too. Q putting the pressure on EDC.
He's giving that energy when you were out last week too, when he came on.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
There's plenty of that energy to go around. Somebody in the live chat was getting after him mid-segment, and I was about to start something in response to what Kadri told me, and he cut me off and just ripped Twat Swat. I mean, just went off on Twat Swat. And I think Twat Swat loved it, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
So anyway.
Samuel Njoku, he says it's probably borderline obvious by now, but I hear this year was especially tough for Steve Bisciotti in regards to what he was watching on the field. The exact verbiage I got from a source was that he was, I always say ticked instead. He was ticked after the Patriots game due to the Henry usage and fourth quarter collapse. I was ticked too.
Big fan of Njoku, man.
Yeah.
Love the guy. Came on last week as well. Great Ravens personality. Go check him out.
Okay. Mark Ingram. Good news for him. Former Ravens running back. It's been announced that he is now a member of the College Football Hall of Fame class. Mark, quote, retweeting the news and saying, all glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for the platform, the ability, and the strength to walk this journey. Nothing I've accomplished is possible without him. Thankful for my family, teammates, coaches, Alabama, and everyone who believed in me along the way. This honor represents far more than just me. It's everyone who has impacted my life and my journey. This is for us. Roll Tide. Hashtag God wins. I love Mark Ingram. He is such a cool dude.
I think Mark probably finds himself on a really short list within the Ravens community, given his short tenure, all things considered, but yet beloved. Like who could you put on that kind of list that was only in Baltimore for a couple years and yet is universally beloved? There's not that many on that list. He's certainly at the top of it, I would think. And it was great to run into him last year in New Orleans. You know, he's doing all kinds of broadcasting these days for Fox, and he's doing it as a podcast with Urban Meyer. He's very much entrenched in his media career. It was great to catch up with him. He was one of the, and I found this to be interesting, he was one of the many, Sarah, that I did not hear back from after John Harbaugh's dismissal. I don't know why there hasn't been a lot from the player community, both past and present, who have been willing to speak out. And I don't know why. I don't know if they don't want to be, I don't know if they don't want to be misquoted, or taken out of context, which happens in today's social world. But there haven't been many.
Maybe he just didn't want to come on the vault. Did you ever consider that?
You think I'm going to accept that? Accept that? I mean, look. Chat reacts accordingly, but it's true. I mean, it's true. I found it really interesting. So,
okay.
Right. No agenda within the comment. I find it really, really interesting, especially when you juxtapose it to the outpouring of support after Tomlin walked away.
Well, but that is, I mean, I don't know what agenda you mean by that, but that is making a statement what you're doing without making it. You're implying that the players didn't back him.
So be it if that's the case. Yeah, I mean, it's not my intention. It's just an observation. You know, it's just seriously though, the Tomlin outpouring has been night and day. And maybe it is as simple as it's on his terms versus Steve's terms. Maybe that's the difference of it. But to me, that's been undeniable over the last week or so.
Yeah, it's tough because it doesn't mean that they don't love him or like him. If they're not, I wasn't here the week that he was let go, so I wasn't able to monitor all that. So I'm taking your word on it. But I do think there's a difference when you're like let go and you got to the point where it's like, okay, we just weren't winning. We were performing below expectations. And you may not have a problem, but you also don't have like great chemistry as you leave, you know?
Could also be a player's coach versus someone who maybe isn't categorized as such, you know?
Yeah, but there have been tons of players that have spoken positively about him in the past. I mean,
Yeah,
Steve
definitely.
Smith Sr. and Eric
Yeah.
Weddle, Terrell Suggs, even in the middle of the year was like, no.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Smith, like plenty of people have.
And it's not without, and it hasn't been without it this week over the last 9 days. Certainly not saying that. You know, Brent Urban, Marlin sent out tweets. A couple of the rookies, Mike Green and E.S. Peebles, put up Instagram stories. But it's just been something that I've been watching and processing. Truly.
Okay.
Dreams writes, Steve saw John host a Browns watch party and knew he was down bad when he had to depend on the Browns to keep our season alive. My timber shivered is for you.
That is embarrassing, by the way. That
was
had to
tough.
rely on the Cleveland Browns to do our work for us.
That was
And then we couldn't even capitalize on it.
Yeah.
The Browns came through and the Ravens did not. Woof.
That's a tough look. And the party, surprising that they talked about the watch party. And maybe it wasn't a party, but the staff get together. Surprising they wanted to let that out. You know, Ravens, that doesn't feel very Raven standard. We're going to go celebrate our division rival beating a team that got us into the postseason or got us a chance to keep our postseason hopes alive.
Well, and again, I'd be fine with it if they took advantage of it, but they didn't.
Yeah, not a great look.
My timber shivered says Steve Smith Sr. was the greatest. Weddle or Ingram was 2 or 3. Even Mace was great.
Appreciate you, Timber. Shadows Quack writes, McDaniel is reportedly considering a great offensive coordinator job over a not great head coach position. You had this from Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Minter/Sala head coach with McDaniel as OC is more of a possibility than a dream. I disagree with that. I think that's more of a dream than a possibility. But to each their own.
I mean, it is a possibility.
It is, but I'd say it's
based
it's
off
more
of the reporting is that he's willing to take a good OC job over a tough head coaching job.
But your main trio being all legit candidates at head coach, I think to me that's more. Well,
he's saying
dream.
Either Minter or Sala, not both. Because I do think it's a strong possibility that the Ravens get 2 of the guys that they've been interviewing for head coach. I think that's a solid possibility.
I'm just rereading make sure I interpreted the text. Dan's reported Minter.
He's saying either Minter or Sala as the head coach.
All right, I thought he had all 3 on staff. Okay. Sorry, Shadow.
All right.
Excuse me. Timber shivered, another one for you.
He says Harbaugh's doghouse was legendary. Ed Reed wanted to fight him. Ray wanted to he didn't slap his behind. It doesn't surprise me that John has mixed reviews at best.
I love when just the random way we go back and forth lands on your turn. Oh, Timber's letting it loose today. A lot of super
going for it.
Appreciate you, Timber. And by the way, do we know you, Timber, in terms of like what your username usually is? Because I'm not used to seeing until the last week or so my Timber's shivered. So let us know who you are so we can tell the whole world. KP writes, interesting thought. Players were clear in their support for Zach, but star players didn't really come out in support of Harbs when given the chance. Yeah.
Lamar was one of them. And Lamar used, saying, hey, the season's just over, but it wouldn't have been that hard to say, Yeah, of course, but I'm not talking about that. The season's over. You know what I mean? He could have said, "Yeah, of course I want Harb's back," but like I'm not
Correct.
getting into that. Yeah,
Correct.
it's true.
And emotions were high that night, which we
But
acknowledged.
again, yes.
Emotions were high. We acknowledged it. But I wanted to make it clear that night. And I didn't know you actually felt the same way because maybe we didn't discuss it at length that day. But I was like, it could have easily been said. And others did. Others did that had their coaches on the hot seat in similar situations at the podium. And Lamar chose not to. And that's his prerogative.
Yeah, and again, two
Patrons.
things can be true at once where they didn't have a bad relationship, but not necessarily one that was phenomenal.
Sure. What's up, Christopher Washington, Brian Walters? We appreciate you guys. Shout out you both for the consistent support that you give us on a monthly basis as members of our Patreon community. Thank you guys. Happy New Year to you. How much longer can you say Happy New Year? Can you say it two weeks into the year?
Maybe all the month of January. It's the first month of the year.
All right. Happy New Year, fellas. Thanks for the support you guys give us. Patreon.com/RavensVault podcast if you'd like to learn more about what we have going on over there. Great stuff today, partner. Best of, as always, repurposed content drops at 4 o'clock. Shout out Brendan, man. He's been doing great stuff for us on the back end of our editing. Brendan Molson, fellow upstate New Yorker. We brought him on in March. And Sarah's really helped us out on the back end of our logistics. We appreciate him. So it's good stuff. Right?
Yes. Well, sorry.
I know.
I was
know.
looking at, you were asking for context to the Mike McDaniel photo in the airport. This guy, Tyler, I don't know who he is, from Maryland. Friend sent this picture in Pittsburgh getting ready to fly back to Baltimore. Is what this guy, Tyler, says is what's behind this picture.
Brendan, don't worry. She co-signed. She likes you too.
Wait, sorry. What did you say about Brendan? Yes, Brendan, you're the best.
I know. I just
Best hire we've ever made. Our only hire we've ever made.
Oh, it's all good.
You're like, right? Crickets.
I want to make sure he knows that we're both on the same page. Oh,
Brendan,
man.
sorry,
All right.
I was looking at hard-hitting breaking news over here, okay? Very important. Very important stuff.
You're looking at somebody that would bring this offense to new heights, you would think, given his offensive prowess, Mike McDaniel. So we'll see what his candidacy is. Sarah, we'll see when that interview ends up being completed. And we'll see where Mike's off to next. On our way out here, Square Rebellion became our newest channel, VAULTRON. So official channel membership. Appreciate you, Square. Thanks for being here, man. And thanks to all of you for spending some time with us. 3,200. Big show. Thanks, guys. Like the video if you could on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership this offseason. And stay with us. This head coach search rolls on. Sarah and I are going to be with you every step of the way. Thanks to Manta Sleep. Thanks to all of you who chimed in today, especially our Super Chat donors. For Sarah, I'm Bobby signing off after this Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We appreciate you, Voltrons. And thanks for spending some time with us here inside the Vault.